So, Grandpa Vkevin, can you tell me
Yep.
about the camels and the toucans, please?
The camels and the toucans. So whenever it was a real simple story. So the man he came in with two cans in his hands. He offered it to the camel. He says, "You have two choices here. You could either take the can on the left or the can on the right." The camel decided to choose the can on the right. But little did he know that that was going to be the grandpa's funeral that he had to go to because it was an invitation to it. Now, it was a really exclusive royal funeral, so it was really high to get in there. So for this man to just offer it up in a can was kind of mind blowing at the time. So whenever he figured out that, he was offered a, the choice to go to that or be going to his own funeral. Of course, it was a good decision on his part, but we got to think about that on their part. So whenever that happened, his grandfather was having an emergency at the royal palace of the camel gods, right? Now, the god thing is really confusing to me, so I won't go too much into that, but just know that these camels ruled over the humans and the pelicans and the goats and the rats and all those kind of things, the hierarchy of things. So whenever you think about it, it's like yogurt, kinda, how all the ingredients go in and it takes time to stir up. So whenever he went to this funeral, the funeral was really big and it was really grand. It was so grand, in fact, that the world made camels one of the prime animals to be in the desert. Have you ever thought about why that the camels are the one prime animal? It's not because of their humps or whatever. It's just because of this royal adventure that this camel went on for the one can and the other can. But if you think about it, it's not that bad. And then the dogs, they had the sword and the stick, and they had to go with humans. Nobody really likes the humans because the humans are kind of fucked up, but the dogs are good characters about it, and they were good boys and good girls, of course. So since this happened, they were able to take back the water that they got a bit, so they were able to store it in their humps, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, because the government made them, like cyborgs and stuff. So they were able to hold it there or whatever. You think that thing's natural? It's not, because the government came in and implanted it into all the camels that came out. You ever seen a camel give birth? No, I haven't. Because we're all in the Matrix, and the ones and the zeros are telling us which camel would be alive and which would not be alive, and to have the humps. So that's why the camels look very much like mules, because they're kind of cousins of the things, right? Sorry, my breath a little bit. But sometimes the humans like to use the camels for food, but the camels don't really taste that good. So we spit it out, and then we give it up to the seals. And the seals are the people, and the other seals, we don't call it SEAL Team 6 for no reason, because there's 6 seals actually in the SEAL team. So they go in, and they go into like Africa, and they go into all these other places. But this all started, of course, from the camel and the two cans from the one guy that offered it. But the guy that really did offer was Jesus Christ himself, which is kind of crazy because he actually then invented Hitler, and then Hitler, started World War II, and SEAL Team 6 had to come from there. So it all came full circle all the way back to the two cans again. So if the camel would have picked the can on the right, then he would have died, right? It's crazy. So this would have never ever happened. So Hitler would have not existed. Jesus Christ would have just went the other way, and this grand, funeral for his grandfather that was of the camels of the gods, right? And that was over the hierarchy of the goats, the pelicans, and everything else, and how it's all like yogurt. It all comes full circle back to it. But if you think about the SEAL Team 6, it's actually very impressive because the history goes all the way back to there as well. So the things that they were able to do, they were able to infiltrate schools filled with children and look completely normal as the children themselves. But you got to think about that too, which is kind of crazy because the SEALs don't look anything like humans. So they also have hot dogs that disguise themselves, and they eat them like normal people do, which is, I don't even know how they did that, because the poor dogs are actually made out of like their cousins, like the whales and stuff and the sharks and stuff. But we had to coexist with that anyways. Whenever the population of that started going down, they started eating tacos and all that stuff, but that's irrelevant to the story. So going all the way back to the grand funeral and all that, and what the camel did, the camel had to give the speech about the cans and how it was delivered by Jesus Christ himself. Now, it's all a metaphor for how life is how it's too short of going left or going right, and you had to pick one or the other. But, maybe it wasn't that simple, or maybe it's just too simple, or maybe it's just this big, elegant idea that we could never think of. And it was just such a spontaneous thing that maybe it was just a coincidence all in itself. But, whenever that happened, it just changed the camel's life forever because he became the head of the government that ran the SEAL Team 6 and also the camel goddesses and goddess of the world all at the same time. He was the first ever to do that. And now, since he had those both powers, he was able to control the camels with the cyborgs that had the big humps of them and had water in them too, and also the SEAL Team 6 that's also in the schools of kindergarten learning about the intelligence of the Russians. Now, I know I didn't mention the Russian part, but that's because, gas prices and miscarriages that happen in the world, but it's just too much for you to understand at the moment. But maybe I should go more into depth about the SEALs since I didn't talk too much about them and how they were infiltrating in more than that. So once they got out of the school or whatever, they went into the training mode where they were actually doing crazy stuff. And they made this big invention, right? They made another race of humans because there was only white humans at the time. Now, people think that God was like a different color and Jesus, all that, but they're actually two different entities because Jesus went off to the left and God went to the right, just like the two cans. One is chaos and normal and everything else in the universe, but you also have the other side of peace and calm and touching and hugging and all those good things. That's why there's chaos and then there's good in the world, because the two entities of the can of the left and the can on the right, it's just all the same in the world. One can or the other can. Now, if you think about that as well, it's just so symbolic because everything in life is the can on the left or the can on the right. And I think I could go more into it, but I don't think you're ready for that. So I'm going to wish you a good night on that.
Grandpa Vkevin?
The SEALs?
I was gonna ask, do the Russians really miscarry that much?